0, 1. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Texas Narcos Podcast. I'm very excited today for a very special episode from TNOA 2024 here in Galveston. We are here with a very special guest, Brandon Smith with BS Narcotics. Brandon, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us, man.
Hey, man, we're joined here by your crew. If you want to introduce your boys, and why don't you tell us what you're doing here with the with your company, with your training company and all that kind of stuff, man. Once you,
Absolutely. So I'm Brandon Smith, born and raised in Killeen, Texas. Created BS Narcotics back in about 2014. It really got kicked off about 2021, 2022, dealing with narcotics training that we really don't have, or or we're afforded through multiple agencies in the state of Texas. Basically, what happened was I joined the narcotics unit back in 2014, the organized crime unit for my agency, and I just didn't feel like I received the training that I really needed to put forth the best effort that I believe I could put forth. So as my years went by, I decided to put the training that I received, the contacts that I made, the networking that I did, and do something for other agencies, other individuals who are just starting their career or have been a 20-year veteran of it. As the training went on, I had multiple people join in, taking my classes. I was very, very fortunate to have the three guys next to me start with me and have been with me ever since. I got John Bowman Jr. here next to me. I got Feeds, and then I have Jeremy Dusek.
all right, man. It's awesome that you guys took time out of your day to join me. I know it's been a long week here at TNOA. I'm sure everybody's tired and ready to go to bed, but I'm really excited that you came on and give me some time. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about your company as far as you talked about how you got here. What kind of training do you offer the people who are at home on YouTube or whatever? How can they get a hold of your classes, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we have a website, www.bsnarcotics.com. We're on Facebook in a private group. You can obviously check us out at BS Narcotics. Apply to be a member of that private group. And we are on Instagram at BS Narcotics as well.
Awesome. Cool, man. So let's go around the room here. So you talked about where you come from. John, why don't you tell us, kind of where you come from and
Yeah, so I'm John Bowman Jr. I'm born and raised from basically the Killeen area as well. Came up, Brandon and I got a weird relationship. Our parents actually worked together at the police department. I started working there in a civilian position and eventually left to take the road position with Coppers Cove Police Department. So started my career in Coppers Cove, worked there for a few years. Narcotics was kind of my thing from the very beginning.
Okay.
So, and then here we are now. I mean, Brandon and I have been talking about this for a few years, and so Brandon put a lot of work to get this company up and going, and then I wanted to be a support and help where I could, and that's where I kind of came on board with Brandon.
That's awesome. All right, Mr. Feeds, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. I'm Eric Fiedler. I also go by Feeds. I started a small town, man. One light town, 2.2 miles east to west, north to south. Started off as a DWI guy for my first year. That's where I was at, man. That's what my FTO taught me at the point. It wasn't until I met a canine guy. He said, "Hey, you might want to try some dope." I said, "Okay, let's get into it." So he taught me the dope game. Went to a couple of classes. Eventually got into the interdiction game, and it was over from there, man. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. Fast forward about 6 years, I got moved down to the Robstown Police Department.
Okay.
My commander at the time was Mike Thomas. He brought me down there. Shout out to him. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
I was a canine for him for a while. I was there at the PD after the whole interdiction thing. He became my chief. And right after that, he became chief. He said, "Hey, you're going to an organized crime unit. Your partner, Jeremy Dusek, needs some help out there. He can't do it alone." I said, okay, cool. Been with him since. It's
Okay.
been awesome, man. I can tell you right now, it's been awesome. And I met Brandon through Jeremy, and
Okay.
we're here now.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a solid dude. He was on the podcast a while back, man. It just absolutely, he's a solid dude.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, won't you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself. And
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy Dushek. I was born and raised in Weimar, Texas, a little small town in between Houston and San Antonio on I-10, about 2,000 people. After graduating high school there, went to Sam Houston State University. I didn't know anything about law enforcement, didn't really want to do the criminal justice thing. I knew nothing about it. I was actually a computer science major. I decided to do my minor in digital forensics, and that kind of led me into the criminal justice world. Graduated there with a bachelor's in criminal justice. After graduating there, I attended the academy down in Corpus, and a few months later got picked up by the El Campo Police Department. Started my career there in 2012. After putting some years in patrol, making some dope cases and different things, both highway and street level, they promoted me to narcotics sergeant. That was probably around 2017. Did about a year and a half there. Then I relocated to the Corpus area and got hired on Robstown PD. Did about 8 months on the streets there, and nobody in Robstown worked dope for about 2 years.
okay.
So me, my sergeant Arturo Gonzalez came to me and he was like, "We're gonna start a narc unit." So we started it from the ground up, CI number 1 all the way up, from scratch, basically what we had. We were also part of the task force at the time, the Nueces County District Attorney's Task Force that recently got disbanded. We saw some of Brandon's training up in Killeen, so we attended one. One led to two, two led to three, so on and so forth until we attended all of them. And it was training that you don't get when you get thrown in the narco world. It's, hey, here's some money, here's some contacts, go do work, you know.
Yeah.
But nobody actually trains on how you can do this and why you can do this.
Right.
It's just trial by fire. So with BS Narcotics, it's actual real life stuff. This is what we do.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that's how it
awesome.
all got started.
That's definitely a need because, like I said, I've been in the narc world for about 8 years now, and I've seen dude after dude after dude come into the unit, leave the unit, and I've been there the whole time, and I've kind of had to like teach these guys, how to do this, without any real training. I mean, yeah, they go like to the basic narcotics class, whatever, but they're not learning how to be narcs there. They're just learning the basics, and so there's so much stuff that you need a person who's done it, has been there in the field, and knows what they're doing to actually say, this is why we can't do that. This is why we can't do that. This is why we do this. This is why we don't do that. And it sounds like the training. I've never been to one of those classes. I'm looking forward to attending one here in the future. But it sounds like the idea that you've come up with and that you're putting out to the people out there is that it's like true world information, stuff that you're actually going to use out there on the street.
Oh no, there's no doubt about that. You actually hit the nail on the head when you said people who have experienced this, who have been out there on the streets doing it. So that's my biggest thing. I've been in the organized crime unit for about 11 years now, and in our training, that's what we concentrate on. It's not me. It's not I. It's about what we have done and how we can help improve you. It's real life stories, and it's real life training.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of stories, so who wants to go first with their first big dope seizure? What was the case that kind of popped your cherry? Which one of y'all's got the best story?
Oh, that was one.
Yeah, if you
could tell that.
Yeah,
one. You could tell that.
it's pretty cool that you say that, man. Or that you asked that question. I'll tell you why. Again, we were with the Nueces County District Attorney's criminal addiction unit, led by Mike Thomas at the time, and one of our biggest hits as a team. And again, it's not because we all did something that day, right? So the best thing about that day was not only what we saw, but how we came together to make it happen, right? So there was a vehicle coming straight out of Mexico, straight across from the point of entry, right? It was a red Chevy. old school, driven by two 18-year-old girls. The guys at the point of entry took over, and they said, "Hey, we need to secondary this. This isn't right. Something's wrong with these girls."
Right.
Secondaried it. I want to say for about 2.5 hours. They searched it. Canine hit on it. They couldn't find anything. At this point, we didn't know anything about that.
Right.
Okay. We're out there on the road still doing our thing. They send it on down the road. It gets to the checkpoint. One of our good friends down there runs his dog. It hits. They search for another 2 hours. So while they're searching, he tells us straight up, man, there's something with this car. I don't know what it is. I don't have that in-depth training that I need. He goes, but something's there, man. Can you guys take a look at it? And you're like, you know what? We got a guy on the highway, So a good friend of ours that was on a task force, Chris Salazar, he was out there. Chris sees the vehicle. Chris knocks it down. Chris puts her in the passenger seat of his vehicle, starts talking. He immediately knows something's wrong here, right?
Right.
I think that they were really confident that officers weren't going to find it. And in the process of doing that, he said, hey, can you give me consent to search your vehicle? The girl's like, yeah, go ahead.
Right.
No problem. Go for it.
I spent the last 4 hours at the checkpoints. I'm good.
Yeah, they're going to get there regardless, is what they thought.
Right.
So Chris goes up. Chris is looking at it. I pull up. They happen to call for a canine. Well, what I didn't know is our other canine guy was out there as well.
Okay.
So when I'm pulling up, Mike's walking up to the car to help him out. Mike, they have the hood up. Mike goes to the car. Mike pulls one plug out, looks in. He's like, oh, it's loaded. Run your dog. I said, okay. So I turned around to the other canine guy. I said, hey, you want to run your dog? He's like, yeah. I said, you were here first, man. He goes immediately. Boom, right at the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Runs it one more time just for, good sake, whatever. Hits again. So, oh, man, that was awesome. I saw it from a distance. So I said, okay. He says, hey, put him in cuffs. We're going to take it off the highway. Okay, cool. I walk up there. I smell heroin hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can smell it. Even with that engine, I smelled it hard.
Right.
Mike shows exactly what he saw. It was something that he taught, right? That canine officer that was there,
mm-hmm.
he knew exactly how to search it because Mike had just went over that engine.
Right.
He looks at it too. He's like, oh, I can tell you where it's at.
Is this a 5.3?
I'm not sure if it was a 5.3, 5.7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick. For the people listening that have never smelled heroin, why don't you describe what you're talking about?
Heroin has a very strong vinegar smell to it. Okay. I mean, for it to be that strong, for me just standing outside the vehicle while the engine's running, I knew it had to be a big load.
Okay.
I knew it. So right after that, we took it off the highway, and Mike's like, get to it. Take apart this engine. I said, okay. Well, we're looking at the engine. What we didn't realize is the intake that was on top of it was 3D printed. Yeah, 3D printed.
That's
Mike,
awesome.
yeah, he grabs one of his famous screwdrivers and hits it. It goes straight through.
Nice.
That should not be able to happen.
No.
So we beat it up, take it apart. And the end result was 53 pounds of heroin in a working engine off of 4 cylinders.
Nice. That's awesome.
Crazy. And like I said, we were both part of it. We both had a deal in it, man. We never thought in our careers that we would see something like that.
Right.
Now,
at this point in time, how long had y'all been working dope down there?
I had been with the team probably about a good 2.5, 3 years, I would say, man.
That's awesome.
I was probably right at, 2 years or so.
That's awesome. So in the vein of being down there at the border, what do you prefer to work? Do you like to work dope coming north, or do you like to work money coming south? I asked your chief the same question. I got one answer from him. Let's see what you'd like to.
Of course, everybody's gonna like the money. It
Right.
goes to your department, man, and helps you. It helps out tremendously, especially for small departments that don't have that money.
Right.
It helps out, and of course we love it. But I can honestly tell you, man, either one of us tell you the same thing, north or south, it doesn't matter. The skills that you got to put in to get that,
Right.
that's exactly what we want to utilize, and that's our reward.
Right.
I don't care if it's a gram inside that car or 100 pounds.
Right.
Someone's still going to jail. You're still doing the same job.
Yeah.
So,
Hitting a lick.
yeah.
I'm glad you said that about, whether it's a gram or 100 kilos, because I get a lot of messages. A lot of guys talk to me that they're out there in their communities and their towns. Let's say they don't have an interstate. They don't have a, Highway 77. They've got, other types of roads, and they're out there and they're working. They're going to interdiction classes. They're trying to learn about, behavior and all this different stuff. Right. and they get these cars pulled over and they get an 8-ball or they get a pound of weed, you know, and they start to get discouraged because they're not hitting these loads that they see on, you know, on Facebook, on social media, you know, and they're like, man, everything they told me, I saw all the behavior, I saw all the indicators, everything they taught me, I saw, but I'm not finding it. What would you tell to these officers, you know, that are getting discouraged because they're not getting these big licks?
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's an 8-ball or a couple keys. You have to start somewhere. That dope came from somewhere. You can take that small amount of dope and work you up the biggest case out there.
Right.
That's where it all starts. I've flipped CIs off of paraphernalia before.
Oh yeah,
They've
100%.
led to some of my biggest seizures.
Right.
On the street level. So
guys come up to at conferences all the time when we were, you know, with that unit, man, and they would be like, "Hey, man, we heard about you guys. You know, man, I want to hit loads like you guys." And I would always tell them, I said, "Look, man, it doesn't matter if you hit 100 pounds or that gram. You still did the work to get into it. Someone still goes to jail.
Yeah,
we're not here to compare. Hey, this many arrests or this much. No, we're still doing the same work, man.
Yeah,
you know, you still needed your skill to get to that point. You got it. You got the arrest. I'm still going to give you a good job. Your job is no less than ours on that highway, man.
100%.
Yeah. So coming from a guy that's always worked at small agencies. Okay. So I work at a very small agency now, in a small rural area with small stretch of Highway 190. So, but I can tell you from a guy that struck out on finding the loads, every one of those little bitty cases, you know, I made hundreds and hundreds of felony narcotic arrests, 1 gram, 3 grams, 4 grams, 6 grams, whatever. And then one day we finally hit our first, and it was in a small town called Lampasas, Texas, off 281.
Right.
And we got 110 pounds of marijuana coming across, and that was, unheard of, never seen.
Yeah.
So it just took a lot of. You're going to swing, you're going to miss. You're going to miss it.
Right.
Well, we've all missed it, but don't give up. Make those little arrests. Keep pushing, because you're going to hit it eventually.
Yeah.
And then it grows from there.
That's awesome. Brandon, you got any stories about your first lick?
I don't have a real good story about my first lick. My very first search warrant was run, and I got about 1.5 pounds, and I was like a little kid in the candy store, man.
Hell yeah.
You know, popping that cherry and doing what you needed to do the right way was the golden ticket for me. But I do want to bring up one thing. Speaking about licks, is, you know, just like all three of these guys just said, if you notice, they said we, our licks, our hits. What's big in BS Narcotics is teamwork. I can't be here just because the name is BS Narcotics. That doesn't mean I'm the only one putting in work and making this business a successful adventure for us or for everybody that attends classes. And there's other people on the outside as well. But here recently, I ended up going down, flipping a guy who was promising me the world.
Right.
Telling me what he can and can't do for me. And it was nothing I can't do. I can do everything. So we start doing work, and he comes up with excuses. As those excuses keep unfolding, you're just waiting to file that charge. And eventually that individual's name is going to come up again from somebody else, because almost everybody talks, as we all know. Well, that second person leads us accidentally to our original target, who was promising us the world. And we ended up getting 11 pounds of meth.
That's awesome.
We watch him, and that wasn't because of me. Obviously, it was because of our entire unit.
Right.
You know, just how I explain and how we teach is you can't run a search warrant by yourself.
100%.
You can't do narcos by yourself.
100%.
You know, it's a team concept, and as a whole, that's what makes BS Narcotics so successful.
That's awesome. You know, I'm glad you said that, because there are a bunch of guys out there. I'd like to think that there's not as many now as there used to be, but, you know, everybody likes to get their pictures. Everybody likes to have pictures in front of the dope. But one guy didn't put you in front of those bricks. One guy didn't put you in front of those stacks of cash. You know, it's 100% a team effort from, you know, the patrol guys that came out to stand with your dudes while you're searching the car, to, you know, your partners back helping you process evidence, helping you, you know, do your inventory. Whatever the case may be, whether it's interdiction or plainclothes narcs, it's 100% a team sport. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, let me add my 2 cents on that
Yeah.
as well. Is you've got to give those patrol officers, those extra units that assist you on, just like you said, scene security or watching the prisoner or something like that. You got to give them just as much kudos as you do your guys that helped you get to where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it goes a long way.
I agree.
It's a lot to them.
Yeah.
It really does.
So let's switch gears a little bit towards some undercover work. Everybody here, I assume, has done undercover work at some point in time during their career. Does anybody have a story about their very first buy that they went on, or like a memorable buy or something that they can talk about? Obviously, if you need to change a few things to protect the integrity of the case or people involved, by all means do that. But anybody got anything good?
Yeah, I can say a little story about it. My very first actual UC dope buy was done in a parking lot of Carolina Ale House. Is a restaurant that has decent traffic,
Mm-hmm.
and when I tell you the friendly walked up with me to introduce me to the target, I don't remember seeing him. I don't remember talking to him.
Yeah.
Because it happens so fast, man.
Right.
Like I was so excited. This is back in the day when I'm wearing hardwire.
Right.
And a belt with the recording mic on it. So that is one I will remember forever because that's the reality of it.
Right.
Your adrenaline is flowing.
100%.
You're nervous. So that is 100% one I will remember for the rest of my life. My very first one.
Yeah, so I've actually never myself done the UC role.
Okay.
I've worked with guys on cases, obviously, that were UCs. I was a case agent. We utilized one of my partners to be the UC. And I can tell you, the first time you set that up, it is the scariest thing in the world, man.
Yeah.
Because you're solely responsible for the safety of that officer, that's in that role for you. I mean, it's your case, but you're begging somebody else to help you.
Right.
Like I said, I work small towns. People know who I am. I
Right.
couldn't do UC where I was at.
Right.
So we had to use a unfamiliar face.
Right.
But when we sent that guy in, man, it was just like hoping and praying and shaking and everything else you could think of that nothing goes wrong because you're responsible, So that's one of those things with the UC world.
There's definitely a different level of nervousness or whatever when you're the case agent and everything that's going on comes back on you. In addition to when you're the UC, but I've noticed, I've been on tons of deals, tons of operations. When it's the other dude's case and you're just assisting, I got my role, I got this, what I'm supposed to do, it's not that you're calmer or you're not paying attention, but when everything's on you and it's your job to make sure that X, Y, Z, everything's going properly, everybody goes home, it does add a little bit to it, what I'm saying? So
yeah, absolutely. So whenever you're the case agent, man, and you don't have that nervousness or that twitch because you want to make sure everybody's safe and everything goes as planned, you're not doing it right. You got to have that nervousness, man.
Yeah. I guess the only story that I could tell you is I hadn't really done UC work at the time at all. When this specific event took place, they were talking. I heard the NAR guys talking about it. My partner here and our boss and another guy named Tyler Roy, real good guy out of Refugio. They were talking in the office and they were like, "Man, we need somebody to go in and see if these guys, got machines in the back, gambling operation."
Right.
I said, "But hey, this is a vape shop."
Yeah.
And what I thought was, man, this is me. Like I could do this, but I didn't say that out loud because I hadn't done it before. And these dudes were on a whole nother level, man. I respected it, I was a Chihuahua in a room full of pit bulls at that time,
right.
But the cool part about it was my guy stood up and was like, "Hey, Feed's back there will do it. That's what he does. He likes gambling. He knows vapes, man. That's what he does, right?" And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So they talked about it for a little bit, a couple of days went by and then they finally said, "Hey, we're going to send you in." Well, I had a lot of confidence at that point, but I wasn't going to let them know that I was like, "Oh, wait, hold on, man."
Yeah.
You for real? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I thought I could do it. I was big time then in my head. When it came to it, I was like, "Oh man, I don't know about this." Long story short, man, they sent me in. I did the vape thing, I had to buy vape. And at the time, my boss didn't realize, that, hey, when you buy a vape in a shop, they tell you to try it right there.
Right.
So he's thinking, oh God, what is this guy gonna do?
Right.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't THC related. It was just nicotine. So I
Right.
bought it, and the guy's like, try it right now. So right there on camera, there I am puffing it, and I swear I heard him in the back of my head, like, are you serious?
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
So put it down, and sure enough, man, the guy looks over and he goes, hey, should we tell this guy? And I'm looking at him like, what are they talking about? He's like, hey, yeah, tell him. Hey, we got some gambling machines in the back, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, man, I worked it on back there.
Yeah.
It all worked out perfect after that.
Yeah.
We ended up hitting the place. But I give all credit to my guys for at least trusting me in that aspect,
Yeah.
Without them, that would have never happened. It wouldn't have kicked off my whole UC career,
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing a gambling deal one time, and I think they enjoyed it too much because this was like my second time in there, and this particular establishment, when you come in, they have to unlock the door to allow you into where all the games are, right? And so the plan was I was going to be in there. We already had the search warrant issued. I was going to get in there, start playing. They were going to come up, and in case they didn't answer the door, I was going to get up and go unlock it. And so I was in there while they were doing the deal, right? And so I knew when they were coming. I hear the door. Of course, the people, they get up and they unlock the door like they're supposed to. And I'm sitting there, and all my homies are coming in, like, everybody hands up, all this, and I'm cooperating. And they come around to me and they get me up, they handcuff me and all this good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of cool because when they took us all outside on the patio, the chick that was running the place was not the one that was there previously. So they put us all down there, and I've still got a wire on, right? And so I'm recording everything, and she confesses to the whole everything to me, apologizing to me for getting me into this. I'm sorry you had to get arrested. I'm sorry this. I'm sorry that.
Oh, yeah.
Blah blah blah, and lays out the whole like organization, like who the boss is, like everything. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they get everybody else out of there, and I'm the last one that they cut loose. They come up with an idea like, oh, you have a warrant, but it's not confirmable, so we're going to cut you loose. So they kick me loose. I get in my car and take off. So, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Those
good times.
game rooms are fun. So
Yeah. The bosses don't like them much because every time you hit that button, they lose a buddy.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
How about you?
So my experience with UC goes back to prostitution.
Okay.
We put out a prostitution class, and we work it through from how to enter a room, how to order up the, excuse my language, hose, how to be safe about it, the whole operation, right? So we run through this training that day, and then that night we're gonna run an op. So we get the hotel room prepped and everything. Brandon and some of his guys come down, and everything's ready to go. We got our stack lined up, and they put me in the UC role, and I'm like, okay, let's go get some hose.
Yeah.
So I'm pacing around the clean room and just waiting on that first one to knock on the door. And it felt like forever, right? She texts, hey, I'm in the parking lot. I'm like, okay, cool. She'll be in like 10 seconds. Well, that 10 seconds was 20 minutes to me, right? So I'm just pacing up and down, wearing a hole in the carpet. She comes in, we make the deal. Let's do this. And entry team comes in, takes her down, and I'm on some kind of crazy adrenaline rush, right? It was crazy. I've never experienced that. I never thought I would experience that in my law enforcement career, but I'm glad I did it, and it was awesome.
That's awesome.
I can tell you this much about this guy. He's very calm, very chill.
Yeah.
He might have a hamster running in there crazy, but I'll tell you what, he's very chill. So when he came into the other room, I've never seen this guy smile bigger.
Right.
It was crazy, man. Yeah, to see him. And he was like, you could see it, all the excitement, the nerves. He's like, I'm ready for the next one. Let's go.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to see, man.
It's definitely a unique experience for anybody that's never done it. You get into law enforcement to become a cop, and you're always taught, officer presence, this, that, and the other. You got to look a certain way. You got to walk a certain way. You got to carry yourself a certain way. And you are trained that. And then all of a sudden you jump into a career or a unit where now you got to not be the police, right? Like you're not supposed to stand like a cop. You're not supposed to hold your gun like a cop. You're not supposed to enter into a room like a cop. You're not supposed to do all the things that they've been training you your whole career to do, right? So it's definitely a unique experience the first time that you get to go play a bad guy, and the fact that you guys are putting out this quality training that's coming from the perspective of the guys that have been out there doing it, so that the young officer that just gets assigned to a narcotics unit doesn't have to just try to figure this out on his own. I know the first time I did a UC deal, I had no training, no experience. I've been in the unit maybe 3 months, and the unit consisted of me and one other dude. Because at the time, at the agency I worked for, we had not had a narcotics unit in like 3 years. So we were starting from the ground up. There was one old crusty narc that had been doing it for years, who was in property crimes, and they were like, "Hey, come over here, kind of teach these boys what's up." But other than that, that was it. And so patrol had gotten a dude for like a gram, called us. We went out, talked to him. He's like, "Hey, I can take you to my guy," right? They called him. Well, I won't tell you what they call him because I don't want to identify anybody in the case. But, and I said, "Well, can you take me down there?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, 100%. So we pull up. Now, the entire cover team consisted of my partner, a supervisor that was the supervisor over the homicide unit. We didn't even have a narc sergeant, right? So he's parked up the road. He's never done this before. And my partner's with him. And I've got an open line on my cell phone in my pocket, right? We walk into this house that is just, I mean, you've been to these houses, right? There's shit everywhere, right? Like you can't even get to the door. You can't get to anywhere, right? And so we get in there. And this was back in the day. This will date me a little bit, but this was when they were selling meth point for point, right? And so I go in there and I said, "Hey, man, I need 30. And he's like, "All right, I got you." And so he's weighing it out. 0.3 grams of meth cost me $30, right? Like, when's the last time you heard point for point on meth, right? So we're sitting there. He weighs it out and he hands me mine. And then he also hands me a pipe. And he's like, "Here you go, bro. Let's burn down." I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right, man, cool." Now, mind you, this is my first time ever buying dope undercover, right? Like, all the bad things in my mind that I've thought about are all coming true. I'm like, "Oh my God, he's going to make me do dope. He's going to pull out a gun. He's going to, he's going to know I'm a cop, blah, blah, blah." So I look at him. I'm like, "All right, man, I got to go." And I'm starting to stumble a little bit. Luckily, the spy that I had with me is an experienced drug user. He steps in and is like, "No, bro, we got to bounce. He got to go pick up his kid, blah, blah, blah." So he kind of got me out of the situation, which is awesome. And so we made the deal. We got out of there and came back a couple weeks later. We did a search warrant or whatever. I think we ended up getting a charge on him. Anyways, so, but yeah, having training and having that having the foundation before you screw up your first time or before you get in there just assuming that you know what you're doing, and there's all the things that can go wrong that I wouldn't have identified, like the pre-assault behaviors, all that kind of stuff. I had no clue what that was. I'm gonna go play a bad guy today, right? So the fact that you guys are putting on those kind of trainings is awesome.
Absolutely.
And while we're talking about that, I mean, in October, we have an undercover class coming up in October right there in Killeen, Texas. It's all of us have completed that course prior to joining this team. And I can tell you it is the most intense but fun and realistic training that you can get for UC work locally, close by. So check out the website. You'll see the dates on that. So it's coming up in October.
And it's a week long?
Week long. We're going.
And is that including with like practical stuff, everything?
All of our training's practical.
Hands-on.
Okay.
And we're going to run through some PowerPoints real fast, but the rest of it's all hands-on work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Everything you described, just telling that story is pretty much the basis of the company, man.
Okay.
You weren't trained.
Right.
And the stuff that you knew was from an old school cat that was like, I guess I'll teach him what I know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Brandon could attest to that, man. It's his, he started this and we followed behind him because we believe these guys need this training, So
little things like you probably didn't have a cover story going in. You probably didn't, you already said, you didn't know anything about pre-assault assault behaviors or what are you going to do to backtrack out of that? We go over all of that in depth. By the time you leave that training, you're going to have a cover story you can work with the rest of your career.
Yeah.
So, and then we're going to teach you how to back out of those things when they want to light up right there. They want you to draw a line on the table, it's incredible. It's the best training that we can. It's our best training out there for sure.
That's awesome. And another thing that, I learned by doing it was to the spy that you're going in there with, just because he's a bad guy, he may be your only person that's going to help you get out of there alive, right?
Absolutely.
And
You gotta trust them.
being able to not only trust them a little bit, enough to help you get out of there, but also to trust them to not get you into a shitstorm.
Yeah.
There was another incident that I had where I took a guy in. He was going to intro me to this house, right? And so we go in there, and he tells us, "No, I know this person, I know that person, I know everybody in the house. I bought dope there 1,000,000 times. Be no problem. I'll vouch for you, and you'll be good, right?" So I'm thinking, okay, cool. So again, small town narc work, right? It's me as the UC. I got the spy with me, and I got a 2-man cover team, my partner and my sergeant, and I'm on Collio. So I get in there, and what's the first thing that happens? Collio goes out, right? Unbeknownst to me, right? Happens every time, right? Out in the sticks. So I'm in there, and the spy starts asking around for the person that he knows, and it was very quickly evident to me that he did not know the people in that house the way he said he did, right? When the first person's like, "Who you asking for?" And at that point, I should have just turned and said, "Hey, bro, let's get out of here." So long story short, he ends up getting into an argument with a dude tatted from head to toe. He stands up. I see the lightning bolts, and he introduces himself to this guy as just getting out of prison, and he gives his rank in a certain organization within the prison.
Yeah.
And starts talking about, you don't know who you are, or you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're doing here. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I got 6 rounds in this revolver that's in my pocket. I can count 8 dudes in here. This is not going to be a good day. So I finally get him away from him. I get my spy outside. I get him in the car, and the dude that was giving him a hard time pulls me aside and says, "Hey, if you get him out of here, come back, I'll take care of you." I was like, "All right, cool. Just don't ever bring him around here again." So I'm like, "All right, man, cool." They actually, I'd already given the money to this one dude. They come back, gave me back my money, and said, "Don't ever bring this dude back here, but you're welcome to come back," right? So we get in the car, we burn off. We make it around the corner. I call my boss. It's like, "Hey, how'd it go in there?" I said, "What do you mean, how'd it go? Y'all didn't hear that?" And they're like, "No, we didn't hear none of the thing." I said, "Oh, okay. That's good.
Wow.
We'll talk about it later."
Wow.
So yeah. Make sure the dude who's taking you in there actually knows what he's talking about. Right?
100%.
So,
Yeah, 100%.
Do your homework.
exactly. So couple more things and we'll try to wrap up this episode. What would you tell so there's got to be a balance between your home life, your work life, and your narc life, right? Like, what would y'all talk about or give some advice to these guys out here that are burning the candle at both ends? Everybody, I know me personally, I don't want to let my guys down. If there's something going on, the phone rings,
Yeah.
I'm out the door. But how do you find that balance between home and work?
So I personally can't attest to that balance, man. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I'm near Corpus Christi now. That's where I live at, right? I don't have my mom and dad there. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. So for me, this art world is the world, right? This is easy for me to do. My guys here who have families, man, they could tell you. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you exactly how that stuff goes down.
Yeah, you got to find a balance. You got to find it fast. Anytime you get into a unit where your phone rings 24 hours a day, 365, you've got to learn to say no. I mean, it took me a long time to learn that. I lost a marriage, lost a house, lost everything, So I'm lucky now to have a wonderful wife that's supportive, but you got to make sure you give home's got to be first priority.
Yeah.
Job's important, but home's got to be first priority.
Yeah.
And then the job comes second. So don't keep that number one. Everything else will fall into place.
I don't disagree with anything that Bowman's saying. But also when you go into that unit, you're applying for that unit or putting in for it. You have to understand what you're putting in for.
100%.
As we all know, like you said, job is priority. You've got to make sure it's good with your wife or your significant other. You got to understand what your kids are going through too.
Right.
You know, if you have young kids, it's a little easier, but a little harder at the same time because your wife doesn't want to be at the house with the kids by herself
Yeah.
the entire time. As your kids get older, they want to do things. You want to be there to support them. And as we all know, the dope world, it is not a scheduled schedule.
Right.
You know, you can work 8 to 5, but really you work 6 to 11.
Right.
So, my only, I guess, opinion on that is your significant other, your kids, and yourself have to know the unknown about this job.
Right.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a terrible schedule for families.
Yeah. And another thing about that too is, you know, having that person at home is important to me, not only to the fact of, yeah, they're not going to be mad at you when you get home. They're not going to be this or that, but knowing that you've got a person at home that's taking care of business and that's going to make sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen so that when you're at work, you can keep your mind in the game and you're not worried about what's going to happen when you get home. Oh, she's going to be mad or, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Having that rock at home so that you can keep your mind on your business is super important.
Yeah, and I'm lucky. I'm lucky in that aspect. Like I said, I have a very supportive wife that actually encouraged me to go into the narcotics unit.
Yeah.
She knew up front. We had that discussion, like Brandon said. You have this discussion. You know your plans. You know your schedule. Things are going to change, and like you just said, as long as they're supportive at home, it makes our job easier. But to those guys out there that want to get into this communication, okay, take the 2 minutes to make the phone call. Let them know you're going to be late. Let them know that you're going to miss this. Let them know you have to leave. Just take that 1 or 2 minutes. That way you know home's taken care of, and then that way you go in with a clear mind because we don't want to go in clouded.
100%.
I think so. Where it started out with me and my wife, when I was in El Campo, right? We get calls in the middle of the night from HSI, or I just get home and we get a bolo out on the highway, and it's like, hey, I gotta go back out. I gotta go do the job. So dinner would stay on the table, and she understood from day one. And I tell her all the time now that we got, you know, 2 daughters. I tell her all the time, you know, you're a way better parent than I am because I'm focused on work and I'm focused on doing this, and you make things work at the house, and I appreciate her. I couldn't do it without her. So,
100%.
yeah, she's
100%.
she's awesome. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This do you have something else you want to add on
I
that?
don't want to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So on behalf of our team, I want to say thank you to our wives, our significant others for sticking around. I mean, with BS Narcotics getting up there and moving, we're gone a lot. I mean, not only is our jobs, but now our second jobs.
Right.
So shout out to all of our wives for supporting us and encouraging us to keep chasing this dream.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if any ladies out there, I'm available, man.
All right. Well, hey,
help me understand their life. Help me understand their life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So this next question is, I asked this to everybody that I talked to, and I think this will be a good question since we've got people here that work down south near the southern border. We got people that work kind of up in the middle of the state as well. Talk about the current crisis at the border and how the influx of dope and people coming across the border affect you and the communities that you serve.
I'll start by saying it's a very lucrative business, as everybody knows, right? I mean, the dope game, the human smuggling game, it's very crazy out there, man, especially down near the border where we work. We're only, 2.5 hours from the border. I can tell you this much, man. It's a very scary world when people are trying to transport people from from Mexico into the United States. Some of these guys don't care about these people, man. You know, they'll load them up into an 18-wheeler, into a back of a truck, and they'll dump that truck. As long as they got their money, man, they don't care. You know, if they get chased by the cops, they're not caring what's happening. They're hitting bumps, going out into a field, hitting ditches. Those people can die, man. It's a very scary world out there, you know, as far as that human smuggling goes. And we deal with it a lot. You know, we really do. And I feel for those people. You know, I know people have their different opinions on, you know, how that world works, but I can tell you it's scary out there for us as well, man, because we're out there making stops on our own. And my partner can attest that, I mean, he stopped the car and I want to say 25, 20 people jumped out of that vehicle,
Right.
and he's out there by himself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's officer safety, but at the same time, you got to watch out for the safety of them as well. You don't know what they've been through, how long they've been without water or, you know, without legit air, stuff like that. So it's a crazy world out there when it comes to human smuggling. And now as far as the whole fentanyl situation goes, I mean, it's scary. Any officer out on that highway or even street level, you know what I'm saying? There's no way that these guys can tell you that they're not scared that one day they might cut open a package or open a package and that bit of fentanyl might go up your nose and you're done.
Right.
You know, and this is why we glove up, man. And if I could tell any of the young officers, yeah, you think it's cool to hurry up and do your job, slow it down.
Right.
They're on your time. Please slow it down. Throw those gloves on, man. It's going to protect you. It's going to protect your partners. Because what happens? You put a glove on, you deal with stuff, you take it off. Now, don't forget to take it off and grab your cell phone and, hey, what's going on, you know? But it's a scary world out there, you know, especially for these kids who are dealing with this fentanyl crisis, you know, Xanax and stuff that looks like Xanax or M30s, or whatever it may be. They're getting into it and it's affecting our communities really bad. And the last thing I want to do, and any of us want to deal with, is do an investigation on a child who overdosed on something like that. And now we're putting our heart into everything we can to get these guys behind bars and shut it down.
Right.
So it's a scary world, man.
Yeah.
Border crisis is real. I mean, we all know what's going on. It's not going to change. Well, hopefully we'll come January, but we won't get into that. So it's real. It's human smuggling is obviously at the all-time high. Even us in Central Texas, we see it. I can tell you every traffic stop full of illegals, bailouts in the middle of Central Texas now, which was unheard of until this last couple of years. Stopping cars, 12, 15, 16 people taking off on you in the middle of Waco or Gatesville, or, you know, so it's kind of, it's at an all-time high. The war on drugs, we're losing. But hopefully with the pendulum swinging back, policing is going to get better. We're going to get more people on our side. We're going to get to grow our teams. We're going to get people to get good training and network. And eventually, hopefully, we can all come together across the state and we can take over Texas again, at least.
Yeah, shut it down.
All right. Do you have anything you wanted to key in on that? And we'll ask one more question and we'll close out.
No, you go ahead.
All right, man. What advice would you guys or anybody give to a young officer who is just now getting into the world of either narcotics, interdiction, or like proactive patrol, that kind of thing?
The first and foremost thing I would say is, yes, this is BS Narcotics. We believe we have some of the best training out there, obviously. But we aren't the only training company out there. We aren't the only people out there that know what they're doing in training and believe that we're giving the best effort in our ability to train. We partner with Dynamic Police Training as well, with Jeremy and everybody else. Get out there and experience things. The trial and error is awesome. As long as it's lawful and you're still doing the right thing, trial and error is where you learn. You're never going to be that person who can do everything right the first time in the narcotics world.
Right.
Doesn't happen. As long as you're safe and doing it lawfully, get out there and do it. Try new things. Ask around. Talk. And one thing that we press in BS Narcotics is networking. That happens in every single class. We could have 5 people in a class. We can have 80 people in a class. You're going to network.
Right.
You're going to have a connection somehow, some way.
Yeah.
So get out there, network, and trial and error with training. Experience different things on the road and off the road.
That's awesome.
I'll just piggyback on what Brandon said. Find training. We know agencies don't have money, but find training. If you can't find training, call somebody and have them bring training to you. The other thing I'm going to say is trial and error is absolutely right, but don't be afraid to fail. We all fail. And if you get knocked down, just get back up. If you want to get into this game, the biggest thing is just knowing what it takes mentally, understanding what it's going to do to home life. But we need you. I'll tell you that. We need you.
Yeah.
Texas needs you. So if you're eager and you want to do it, come on. Let's do it.
Yeah.
coming from a small town, working in a small town, man, I can tell you this much. I would love for these guys who are just coming in to stop being scared and ask questions, man. That is the biggest thing. Ask questions. You know, you don't necessarily have to go to a training to learn everything. The guys around you can teach you. I've learned a lot from this guy, even before the teaching world. You know what I mean? And I ask questions. I'm sure I irritate the hell out this guy. You know what I mean? But he's there to answer these questions. And I wish more senior officers were open to do that. So please ask as many questions as you can. Seek training. And if your agency's not willing to pay for it, hey man, I know some people who work off duty. Throw some money aside. I know you got families and stuff, but do that and invest in yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing for me. So network for sure. Again, we're going to push that 100%. Network.
So yeah, all these guys hit on very good points. I think that the thing that came to my mind when you first asked the question was stay hungry and stay humble. That's the biggest thing. You know, you're not going to go out there and hit a home run every night or every time you're on patrol. Go out there, put in the work, put in the hours, put in the effort. If you don't stop that car, you're not going to find anything, right? So put it all together and just stay hungry out there. Also stay humble. When you do make that big bust, when you do start seizing all this dope, be humble about it. Other people on your unit or on your shift, you know, show them things that you've done, you know, train them up, try to get them to, you know, come ride with you or whatever. Give them that knowledge, pass that knowledge on, and just be humble about it. You know, everybody likes to pound their chest a little bit here and there, but that's not always the right thing to do, especially in this profession.
Yeah.
You know, we're out there doing a job. Just do your job. That's it.
We, not I.
Yep.
Right.
Always remember that, man.
100%.
You don't get to where you're at without somebody helping you out.
Exactly. That's awesome, guys.
Why don't you finish it off, boss?
We'll let you close us out. Any last thoughts or anything else that you want to say? Why don't you remind the people watching where they can find your training and
www.bsnarcotics.com. Facebook and Instagram we have. If you have questions, concerns, comments, reach out to us. All four of us are willing to travel. We traveled the United States to train. One thing I can tell you, we are not in it for the money. We are in there to put the education out there, to afford you the education we didn't get. The things that need to hit the streets is what we teach. It's active detectives, people who see it every day. We keep up to date on everything we need to, and are always willing to experience what we haven't done. So
awesome. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all's time. Everybody out there, I'm going to put a link to BS Narcotics in the video description. And until next time, we'll see y'all down the road on Texas Narcos. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you, God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.